Hello and welcome to the video lecture series of web technology. During this, you'll learn the basics of computer networks, various components of web, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In this video, I will talk about the basics of computer network, client-server architecture, tier technology, and static and dynamic web pages. I hope you stay with me during this. Let's begin with the introduction to network. A network is a group of two or more computer systems that are linked in order to share resources such as printers, hard drives, exchange files, or allow various other forms of communication. It's simply a series of interconnected nodes that can transmit, receive, and exchange data, voice, and video traffic. Those nodes can be servers or modems or routers or any networking devices, and those nodes on a network may be linked through different cables, radio waves, satellite signals, etc. With the computer network, the geographical barriers of sharing information are being removed and we are getting a convenient way of communication. Computer networks have a variety of uses such as file sharing, which enables users to share data files, application sharing, which enables users to share applications, hardware sharing, which enables users to share hardware devices such as printers, hard drives, communication, which includes video, text, and voice. With this, I hope you have got the basic idea on computer network. Broadly speaking, computer networks can be categorized as local network and wide network. A local network, which is also called LAN, is a network that is confined to a relatively small area such as a lab, a school, or a building. Wide area network, also known as WAN, connects network in larger geographical areas such as Kathmandu or Nepal or the whole world. Among various network architectures, the client-server model is a popular one. This architecture distributes the workload between the resource provider called servers and resource requester called clients. Servers are generally not used by human directly except by the admins, but rather run continuously to provide services to the clients on the network. Clients have a human user who interacts with the network. They were traditionally considered a desktop or a laptop, but these days, phones, tablets, and other portable devices also interact with the network, acting as a client and utilize network services. In the client-server architecture, when the client sends a request for data to the server through the network, the server accepts the request, processes it, and delivers the requested data back to the client. As this lecture focuses on web technology, we'll recognize servers and clients as web servers and web clients. Let's see how a device can be a web client or a web server. The World Wide Web, WWW, or simply the web, is an information system where various web resources such as text, image, audio, video, etc. are identified by Uniform Resource Locators, also known as URLs, or Uniform Resource Identifiers, also known as URIs. The format of URL is shown in the screen. Hypertext Transfer Protocol is the major web protocol for request and response of those web resources. Web server is a hardware as well as software working together to fulfill the web client's request. A web server is a powerful computer that is equipped with web server software, for example, Apache Server or Microsoft IIS, and a web application files such as HTML documents, images, style sheets, and scripting files. Along with those contents, the web server also supports server-side scripting like Active Server Pages ASP, Hypertext Preprocessor PSP, or Java Server Page JSP. Web server is connected to the internet and supports data interchange with other devices, which are also connected to the internet. The major function of a web server is to store, process, and deliver web pages to the clients. The communication between client and server takes place using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, also known as HTTP. Currently, the two most popular web servers are Apache Web Server and Microsoft IIS, which is the short for Internet Information Server. There are also other web servers such as Google Web Server and IBM's Domino servers. The web client is the user side of the web. It typically refers to any of the web browsers on the user's device, like Google Chrome or Safari or Microsoft Edge, Opera, Mozilla Firefox, etc. The web browser sends the request to the web server and collects and displays the processed data from the server. Typing the web address on the address bar and pressing enter key is a simple way to send the request. When you type website address in the address bar of web browser, the requested content is retrieved by traversing through various web components, and in the end, the browser displays the output in the proper format. We can say that the processing and providing a web page to the web client is the main duty of web server. I will discuss the working of individual components in detail in the later videos. Now let's talk about web pages and websites. The web page is a document that holds hypertext contents and that can be displayed in a web browser. A web page is commonly written following the rules of HTML that contains text, graphics, as well as hyperlinks to other web pages and other different type of files. Web pages can either be static or dynamic. Static pages show the same content each time they are viewed. A static website is created using HTML, which has a fixed way to instruct the browser how to render the page. Static websites are used to display fixed information that does not need to be updated on a regular basis. The content of those static pages are hard-coded in the HTML file. Dynamic pages have content that can change each time they are accessed and also based on the requested parameters with the help of server-side scripting and database. If a user wants to search on a website, he simply enters keywords and press enter. Then the server returns search results generated specifically for him. The result page will be different for another user with another set of keywords. So, on a dynamic web page, the content being generated depends upon the parameters of the web client. Dynamic web pages are typically written in scripting language such as PHP, ASP, or JSP, etc. The scripts in the pages run functions on the server that return dynamic content, mostly retrieving data from the database. All the information is returned as HTML code, so when the page gets to your browser, all the browser has to do is process the HTML and display the output. The collection of web pages makes a website. A web page is an individual document. The website is a set of related pages located under a single domain. The detailed mechanism of how static and dynamic pages are processed will be discussed later. Let's now discuss about tier technology. Tier technology refers to the layered architecture where different layer appears to perform different tasks. The communication mechanism on the web is distributed among several layers located in single or multiple machines in a network. With such a mechanism, communication will be completed in a convenient and effective way. Most of the web application contains three different logic. Presentation logic, also called presentation tier, deals with GUI or graphical user interface. It displays the content to the user as well as get input from the user through forms. The presentation tier manages communication between a web browser and a web server. Another logic is business logic, also called business tier, that deals with data validation rules, ensuring the entered data are valid before storing it on the database. Business logic examines the values that a user enters in a form. The programming logic determines whether the entered value is valid as per the defined rules. If the value is invalid, the module informs the presentation tier that the values are invalid. Then the presentation tier displays an error message in the browser. The last one is data access logic, also called as data tier, which deals with database communication, accessing tables and indexes, as well as packing and unpacking of data. Web application needs a data repository to hold the organizational data. That repository could be a database or some other data storage mechanism. The code in the data tier performs various database operations such as insert, select, update and delete, as well as other complex database operations. If the data entered on the form I talked earlier is valid, then the business tier requests the data tier to insert those data into the database, and data tier acts accordingly. With those logical components on the mind, let's see different types of tier technology. One tier technology, an application with the presentation, business and data access logic installed on a single standalone computer. And to use that system, the user must use that computer. It does not matter whether the computer is connected to the network or not. So while talking about web technology, we can skip one tier technology. Next is two tier technology. With the previous descriptions of three tiers, you may have already realized those as separate logical units. Those logical units interacts to create a web application. So in the two-tier mechanism, presentation and business unit work as one and data unit as another unit, making it look like two layers. The client-server model is an example of two-tier architecture. The client system sends the request to the server system, and the server system processes the request and sends back the data to the client system. For the demonstration on how this mechanism works, client and server systems may not need to be on separate machines, but if you want your system to be accessed by multiple users or multiple clients, you need to establish one computer as a server where the application will be hosted, and multiple clients sends requests to that server through their client application. There are mainly two types of clients, thin client and thick or fat client. A thin client is a computer that runs from resources stored on a central server instead of a local hard drive. Thin clients work by connecting remotely to a server-based computing environment where most applications and data are stored. Installing a thin client is more cost effective than installing regular PCs, and it can also reduce IT support as well as licensing costs. Similarly, security can be improved through employing thin clients because the thin client itself is not capable of installing and running software on its own. The thin clients connected to the server can be easily monitored and managed from the centralized server location. A thick client refers to a well-equipped personal computer that does all its own data processing and does not always need to be connected to the server. Thick clients are more difficult to secure and manage, costlier to deploy, and can consume a great deal of energy in comparison to the thin client. They are made up of more hardware than thin clients, but also have more features and capability. If your application require multimedia components or that are bandwidth intensive, it's better to use thick clients. Three-tier technology. In the three-tier technology, client system handles the presentation logic, the application server handles business logic, and the database server handles the data access logic. Three-tier technology separates the user applications and physical database and support to gain program data independence. Web-based applications follow three-tier mechanisms. The three-tier design approach increases productivity and manages the application components more effectively. It increases an application's flexibility and enables people that deploy them to reuse existing code and scale their applications when needed. Because components are reusable, you can share them with other people who may need similar functionality that your components provide. N-tier technology. N-tier technology is also called multi-tier architecture. In this architecture, the presentation, processing, and data management functions are both logically and physically separated. With this distribution, the services can be provided at top capacity since there is no resource sharing. It is suitable to support enterprise level client server applications by providing solutions to scalability, security, reusability, and maintainability. If you got any confusion about the topics covered in this video, please say it in the comments. I'll go through it and solve the issues in the coming videos. Wait for the next video with more interesting topics. See you.